Welcome to our channel. Let's start Unit 2.
Unit 2 Structural Organization in Plants and Animals. Chapter 5 Morphology of Flowering Plants. Chapter 6 Anatomy of Flowering Plants. Chapter 7 Structural Organization in Animals. The description of diverse forms of life on Earth was made only by observation, through naked eyes or later through magnifying lenses and microscopes. This description is mainly of gross structural features, both external and internal. In addition, observable and perceivable living phenomena were also recorded as part of this description. Before experimental biology, or more specifically physiology, was established as a part of biology, naturalists describe only biology. Hence, biology remained as a natural history for a long time. The description by itself was amazing in terms of detail, while the initial reaction of a student could be boredom. One should keep in mind that the detailed description was utilized in the latter day reductionist biology, where living processes drew more attention from scientists than the description of life forms and their structure. Hence, this description became meaningful and helpful in framing research questions in physiology or evolutionary biology. In the following chapters of this unit, the structural organization of plants and animals, including the structural basis of physiological or behavioral phenomena, is described. For convenience, this description of morphological and anatomical features is presented separately for plants and animals. Catherine Isso, birth 1898, death 1997. Catherine Isso was born in Ukraine in 1898. She studied agriculture in Russia and Germany and received her doctorate in 1931 in United States. She reported in her early publications that the curly top virus spreads through a plant via food conducting or phloem tissue. Dr. Isau's Plant Anatomy, published in 1954, took a dynamic developmental approach designed to enhance one's understanding of plant structure and an enormous impact worldwide, literally bringing about a revival of the discipline. The Anatomy of Seed Plants by Catherine Isho was published in 1960. It was referred to as Webster's of Plant Biology. It is encyclopedic. In 1957, she was elected to the National Academy of Sciences, becoming the sixth woman to receive that honor. In addition to this prestigious award, she received the National Medal of Science from President George Bush in 1989. When Catherine Isho died in the year 1997, Peter Rabin, director of Anatomy and Morphology, Missouri Botanical Garden, remembered that she absolutely dominated the field of plant biology even at the age of 90. Chapter 5 Morphology of Flowering Plants. The wide range in the structure of higher plants will never fail to fascinate us, even though the angiosperms show such a large diversity in external structure or morphology. They are all characterized by presence of roots, stems, leaves, flowers, and fruits. In chapter 2 and 3, we talked about classification of plants based on morphological, and other characteristics for any successful attempt at classification and at understanding any higher plant or, for that matter, any living organisms. We need to know standard technical terms and standard definitions. We also need to know about the possible variations in different parts found as adaptation of the plants to their environments, such that adaptations to various habitats for protection, climbing, storage, etc. If you pull out any weed, you will see that all of them have roots, stems, and leaves. They may be bearing flowers and fruits. The underground part of the flowering plant is the root system, while the portion above the ground forms the shoot system. 5.1 The root. In majority of the dicotyledonous plants, the direct elongation of the radicle leads to the formation of primary root which grows inside the soil. It bears lateral roots of several orders that are referred to as secondary, tertiary, etc. roots. The primary roots and its branches constitute the taproot system, as seen in the mustard plant. In monocotyledonous plants, the primary root is short-lived and is replaced by a large number of roots. These roots originate from the base of the stem and constitute the fibrous root system, as seen in the wheat plant. In some plants like grass, monstera, and the banyan tree, roots arise from parts of the plant other than the radicle and are called adventitious roots. The main functions of the root system are absorption of water and minerals from the soil, providing a proper anchorage to the plant parts, storing reserve food material, and synthesis of plant growth regulators. 5.1.1 Regions of the root. The root is covered at the apex by a thimble-like structure called the root cap. It protects the tender apex of the root as it makes its way through the soil. A few millimeters above the root cap is the region of meristematic activity. The cells of this region are very small, thin-walled, and with dense protoplasm. They divide repeatedly. The cells proximal to this region undergo rapid elongation and enlargement and are responsible for the growth of the root in length. This region is called the region of elongation. The cells of the elongation zone gradually differentiate and mature. Hence, this zone, proximal to region of elongation, is called the region of maturation. From this region, some of the epidermal cells form very fine and delicate thread-like structures called root hairs. These root hairs absorb water and minerals from the soil. 5.1.2 Modification of root. Roots in some plants change their shape and structure and become modified to perform functions other than absorption and conduction of water and minerals. They are modified for support, storage of food, and respiration. Taproots of carrot, turnip, and adventitious roots of sweet potato get swollen and store food. Can you give some more examples? Have you ever wondered that What those hanging structures that support a banyan tree. These are called prop roots. Similarly, the stem of maize and sugarcane have supporting roots coming out of the lower nodes of the stem. These are called stilt roots. In some plants, such as rhizophora, growing in swampy areas, many roots come out of the ground and grow vertically upwards. Such roots, called pneumatophores, help to gas oxygen for respiration. 5.2 The stem. What are the features that distinguish a stem from a root? The stem is the ascending part of the axis, bearing branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits. It develops from the plumule of the embryo of a germinating seed. The stem bears nodes and internodes. The region of the stem where leaves are born are called nodes, while internodes are the portion between two nodes. The stem bears buds, which may be terminal or axillary. Stem is generally green when young and later often become woody and dark brown. The main function of the stem is spreading out branches, bearing leaves, flowers, and fruits. It conducts water, minerals, and photosynthesis. Some stems perform the function of storage of food, support, protection, and of vegetative propagation. 5.2.1 Modifications of stem. The stem may not always be typically like what they are expected to be. They are modified to perform different functions. Underground stems of potato, ginger, turmeric, jamaicanth, colocasia are modified to store food in them. They also act as organs of perennation to tide over conditions unfavorable for growth. Stem tendrils, which develop from axillary buds, are slender and spirally coiled and help plants to climb, such as in gourds, cucumber, pumpkin, watermelon, and grapevines. Axillary buds of stems may also get modified into woody, straight, and pointed thorns. Thorns are found in many plants such as citrus, bougainvillea. They protect plants from browsing animals. Some plants of arid region modified their stems into flattened opuntia or fleshy cylindrical euphorbia structure. They contain chlorophyll and carry out photosynthesis. The underground stems of some plants such as grass and strawberry, etc., spread to new niches, and when older parts die, new plants are formed. In plants like mint and jasmine, a slender lateral branch arises from the base of the main axis and after growing aerially for some time arc downwards to touch the ground. A lateral branch with short internodes and each node bearing a rosette of leaves and a tuft of roots is found in aquatic plants like pistia and ecornia. In banana, pineapples, and chrysanthemum, the lateral branches originate from the basal and the underground portion of the main stem grow horizontally beneath the soil and then come out obliquely upward, giving rise to leafy shoots. 5.3 Leaf. The leaf is a lateral, generally flattened structure borne on the stem. It develops at the node and bears a bud in its axil. The axillary bud later develops into a branch. Leaves originate from pseudapical meristems and are arranged in an acropetal order. They are the most important vegetative organs for photosynthesis. A typical leaf consists of three main parts: leaf base, petiole, and lamina. The root, the leaf is attached to the stem by the leaf base and may bear two lateral leaf-like structure called stipules. In monocotyledons, the leaf base expands into a sheath covering the stem partially or wholly. In some leguminous plants, the leaf base may become swollen, which is called the pulvinus. The petiole help hold the blade to light. Long, thin, flexible petioles allow leaf blades to flatter in wind, thereby cooling the leaf and bringing fresh air to leaf surface. The lamina or the leaf blade is the green expanded part of the leaf with veins and veinlet. There is usually medial prominent vein which is known as the midrib. Veins provide rigidity to the leaf blade and act as channels of transport for water, minerals, and food materials. The shape, margin, apex, surface, and extent of incision of lamina varies in different leaves. 5.3.1 Venation. The arrangement of veins and the veinlet in the lamina of leaf is termed as venation. When the veinlets form a network, the venation is termed as reticulate. When the veins run parallel to each other within a lamina, the venation is termed as parallel. Leaves of dicotyledonous plants generally possess reticulate venation, while parallel venation is the characteristics of most monocotyledons. 5.3.2 Types of leaves. A leaf is said to be simple when its lamina is entire or when incised. The incision do not touch the midrib. When the incision of the lamina reach up to the midrib, breaking it into a number of leaflets, the leaf is called compound. A bud is present in the axil of petiole in both simple and compound leaves, but not in the axil of leaflets of the compound leaf. The compound leaves may be of two types. In a pinnately compound leaf, a number of leaflets are present on a common axis, the rachis, which represents the midrib of the leaf as in name. In palmately compound leaves, the leaflets are attached at a common point, that is, at the tip of petiole, as in silk cotton. 5.3.3 Phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is the pattern of arrangement of leaves on the stem or branch. This is usually the three types: alternate, opposite, and whorled. In alternate type of phyllotaxy, a single leaf arises at each node in alternate manner, as in China rose, mustard, and sunflower plants. In opposite type, a pair of leaves arise at each node and lie opposite to each other, as in calotropis and guava plants. If more than two leaves arise at a node and form a whorl, it is called whorled. as in Elstonia. 5.3.4 Modification of leaves. Leaves are often modified to perform functions other than photosynthesis. They are converted into tendrils for climbing as in pias or into spines for defense as in cacti. The fleshy leaves of onion and garlic store food. In some plants such as Australian acacia, the leaves are small and short-lived. The petioles in these plants expand, become green and synthesize food. Leaves of certain insectivorous plants such as pitcher plant, Venus flytrap are also modified leaves. 5.4 The inflorescence. A flower is a modified shoot wherein the shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem. Internodes do not elongate and the axis gets condensed. The apex produces different kinds of floral appendages laterally at successive nodes instead of leaves. When a shoot tip transforms into a flower, it is always solitary. The arrangement of flowers on the floral axis is termed as inflorescence, depending on whether the apex gets converted into a flower or continued to grow. Two major types of inflorescences are defined, racemose and cymose. In racemose type of inflorescences, the main axis continues to grow. The flowers are borne laterally in an acropetal succession. In cymose type of inflorescence, the main axis terminates in a flower, hence is limited in growth. The flowers are borne in a basipetal order. 5.5 The flower. The flower is the reproductive unit in the angiosperm. It is meant for sexual reproduction. A typical flower has four different kinds of whorls arranged successively on the swollen end of the stalk or pedicel called thalamus or receptacle. These are calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Calyx or corolla are accessory organs, while androecium and gynoecium are reproductive organs. In some flowers, like lily, the calyx and corolla are not distinct and are termed as perianth. When a flower has both androecium and gynoecium, it is bisexual. A flower having either only stamens or only carpels is unisexual. In symmetry, the flower may be actinomorphic radial symmetry or zygomorphic bilateral symmetry. When a flower can be divided into two equal radical halves in any radial plane passing through the center, it is said to be actinomorphic, that is, such that mustard, datura, chili, when it can be divided into two similar halves only in one particular vertical plane, it is zygomorphic, such that pea, gulmohar, bean, cassia, a flower is asymmetric, irregular if it cannot be divided into two similar halves by any vertical plane passing through the center, as in canna. A flower may be trimerous, tetramerous, or pentamerous when the floral appendages are in multiple of 3, 4, or 5 respectively. Flowers with bracts, reduced leaf found at the base of the pedicel are called bracted, and those without bracts E-bracted. Based on the position of calyx, corolla and androecium in respect of the ovary on thalamus, the flowers are described as hypogynous, perigynous and epigynous. In the hypogynous flower, the gynoecium occupies the highest position while the other parts are situated below it. The ovary in such flowers is said to be superior, such that mustard, China rose and brinjal. If gynoecium is situated in the center and other parts of the flower are located on the rim of the thalamus almost at the same level, it is called perigynous. The ovary here is said to be half inferior, such that palm, rose, peach. In epigynous flowers, the margin of thalamus grows upward, enclosing the ovary completely and getting fused with it. The other parts of flower arise above the ovary, hence the ovary is said to be inferior, as in flowers of guava and cucumber, and the ray florets of sunflower. 5.5.1 Parts of a flower. Each flower normally has 4 floral holes, viz. Calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. 5.5.1.1 Calyx. The calyx is the outermost hole of the flower and the members are called sepals. Generally, sepals are green, leaf-like and protect the flower in the bud stage. The calyx may be gamosepalous, sepals free, sepals united or polysepalous, sepals free. 5.5.1.2 Corolla. Corolla is composed of petals. Petals are usually brightly colored to attract insects or for pollination. Like calyx, corolla may be also united, gamopetalous, petals united, or polypetalous, petals free. The shape and color of corolla vary greatly in plants. Corolla may be tubular, bell-shaped, funnel-shaped, or wheel-shaped. Aestivation, the mode of arrangement of sepals or petals in floral bud with respect to the other members of the same whole is known as aestivation. The main types of aestivation are velvet, twisted, imbricate, and vexillary. When sepals or petals in a whole just touch the one another at the margin without overlapping, as in calotropis. When sepals or petals in a whole just touch one another as at the margin without overlapping, as in calotropis, it is said to be velvet. If one margin of the appendage overlaps that of the next one, and so on, as in China rose, lady's finger, and cotton, it is called twisted. If the margins of sepals or petals overlap one another but not in any particular direction, as in cassia and gulmohar, the aestivation is called imbricate. In pea and beans flower, there are 5 petals. The largest standard overlaps the 2 lateral petals wings, which in turn overlap the 2 smallest anterior petals keel. This type of aestivation is known as vexillary or papilionaceous. 5.5.1.3 Androecium. Androecium is composed of stamens, Each stamen, which represents the male reproductive organ, consists of a stalk or a filament and an anther. Each anther is usually bilobed and each lobe has two chambers, the pollen sacs. The pollen grains are produced in pollen sacs. A sterile stamen is called staminode. Stamens of flower may be united with other members such as petals or among themselves. When stamens are attached to the petals, they are epipetalous, as in brinjal, or epiphyllous when attached to the perianth, as in the flowers of lily. The stamens in a flower may either remain free, polyandrous, or may be united in varying degrees. The stamens may be united into one branch or one bundle, monodelphous, as in China rose, or two bundles, diadelphous, as in Pia, or into more than two bundles, polyadelphous, as in citrus. There may be a variation in the length of filaments within a flower, as in salvia and mustard. There may be a variation in the length of filaments within a flower, as in salvia and mustard. 5.5.1.4 Gynoecium. Gynoecium is the female reproductive part of the flower and is made up of one or more carpels. A carpel consists of three parts, namely stigma, style, and ovary. Ovary is the enlarged basal part on which lies the elongated tube, the style. The style connects the ovary to the stigma. The stigma is usually at the tip of the style and is the receptive surface for pollen grains. Each ovary bears one or more ovules attached to a flattened cushion-like placenta. When more than one carpel is present, they may be free, as in lotus and rose, and are called apocarpus. They are termed syncarpus when carpels are fused, as in mustard and tomato. After fertilization, the ovules develop into seeds and the ovary matures into a fruit. Placentation. The arrangement of ovules within the ovary is known as placentation. The placentation are of different types, namely marginal, axial, parietal, basal, central, and free central. In marginal placentation, the placenta forms a ridge along the ventral suture of the ovary and the ovules are borne on the ridge, forming two rows, as in Pia. When the placenta is exiled and the ovules are attached to it in a multilocular ovary, the placentation is said to be exiled, as in China rose, tomato, and lemon. The parietal placentation, the ovules develop on the inner wall of the ovary or on parietal peripheral part. Ovary is one-chambered, but it becomes two-chambered due to the formation of the false septum, such that mustard and argemone. When the ovules are borne on central axis and septa are absent, as in dianthus and prime rose, the placentation is called free central. In basal placentation, the placenta develops at the base of ovary and a single ovule is attached to it, as in sunflower, marigold. 5.6 The fruit. The fruit is a characteristic feature of the flowering plants. It is a mature or ripened ovary developed after fertilization. If a fruit is formed without fertilization of the ovary, it is called a parthenocarpic fruit. Generally, the fruit consists of a wall or pericarp and seeds. The pericarp may be dry or fleshy. When pericarp is thick and fleshy, it is differentiated into the outer epicarp and middle mesocarp and inner endocarp. In mango and coconut, the fruit is known as a drupe. They develop from monocarpellary superior ovaries and are one-seeded. In mango, the pericarp is well differentiated into an outer thin epicarp, a middle fleshy edible mesocarp, and an inner stony hard endocarp. In coconut, which is also a drupe, the mesocarp is fibrous. 5.7 The seed. The ovules, after fertilization, develop into seeds. A seed is made up of a seed coat and an embryo. The embryo is made up of a radical and embryonal axis and one as in wheat, maize, or two cotyledons as in gram and pear. 5.7.1 Structure of a dicotyledonous seed. The outermost covering of a seed is the seed coat. The seed coat has two layers, the outer testa and the inner tegmen. The hilum is a scare on the seed coat through which the developing seeds were attached to the fruit. Above the hilum is a small pore called the micropyle. Within the seed coat is the embryo, consisting of an embryonal axis and two cotyledons. The cotyledons are often fleshy and full of reserved food materials. At the two ends of the embryonal axis are present the radicle and the plumule. In some seeds, such as castor and endosperm, formed as a result of double fertilization, is a food storing tissue. In plants, such as bean, gram, and pear, the endosperm is not present in mature seeds, and such seeds are called non-endospermous. 5.7.2 Structure of monocotyledonous seed. Generally, monocotyledonous seeds are endospermic, but some, as in orchids, are non-endospermic. In the seeds of cereals such as maize, the seed coat is membranous and generally fused with the fruit wall. The endosperm is bulky and stores food. The outer covering of endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinous layer called a neuron layer. The embryo is small and situated in a groove at one end of the endosperm. It consists of one large and shield-shaped cotyledon known as scrotellum and a short axis with a plumule and a radicle. The plumule and radicle are enclosed in sheaths which are called coleoptile and coleorhiza respectively. 5.8 Semi-technical description of a typical flowering plant. Various morphological features are used to describe a flowering plant. The description has to be brief, in a simple and scientific language, and presented in a proper sequence. The plant is described beginning with its habit, vegetative characters, roots, stem, and leaves, and then floral characters, inflorescence, and flower parts. After describing various parts of plant, a floral diagram and a floral formula are presented. The floral formula is represented by some symbol. In the floral formula, BR stands for bractet, K stands for calyx, C for corolla, P for perianth, A for androecium, and G for gynoecium. G dash for superior ovary and G bar for inferior ovary. For male, that is for female, that is for bisexual plants. Plus sign for actinomorphic and percentage sign for zygomorphic nature of flower. Fusion is indicated by enclosing the figure within bracket, and adhesion is by a line drawn above the symbols of the floral parts. A floral diagram provides information about the number of parts of a flower, their arrangement, and the relation they have with one another. The position of the mother axis with respect to the flower is represented by a dot on the top of the floral diagram. Calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium are drawn in successive holes. Calyx being the outermost and the gynoecium being in the central floral formula also shows cohesion and adhesion within parts of whole and between wholes. The floral diagram and floral formula in figure 5.20 represents the master plants family Brassicaceae. 5.9 Description of some important families. 5.9.1 Fabaceae. This family was earlier called Papilionoidea, a subfamily of family Leguminosae. It is distributed all over the world. Vegetative characters: trees, shrubs, herbs, root with root nodules, stem, erect or climber, leaves, alternate, pinnately compound or simple, leaf base, pulvinate, stipulate, venation reticulate. Floral characters: inflorescence racemose, flower bisexual, zygomorphic, calyx, sepals 5, gamosepalous, velvet or imbricate aestivation, corolla, petals 5, polypetalous, papilionaceous, consisting of a posterior standard, two lateral wings, two anterior ones, forming a keel enclosing stamens and pistil, maxillary aestivation. Androecium 10, diadelphous, anther dithecus. Gynoecium, ovary superior, monocarpellary, unilocular with many ovule, style single, fruit, legume, seed, one to many, non-endospermic. Floral formula: percentage bisexual, K5, C1 plus 2 plus 2 united, A 9 united plus 1, G bar, G dashed 1. Economic importance: many plants belonging to the family are sources of pulses: gram, arhar, seam, moong, soybean, edible oil, soybean, groundnut, dye, indigofera, fibers, sunhelm, fodder, sesbania, trifolium, ornaments, lupin, sweet medicine, muliathi. 5.9.2 Solanaceae. It is a large family, commonly called as the potato family. It is widely distributed in tropic, subtropics, and even temperate zone. Vegetative characters: plants, mostly shrubs and rarely small trees. Stem: herbaceous, rarely woody. Aerial, erect, cylindrical, branched. Solid or hollow, hairy or glabrous. Underground stem in potato, Solanum tuberosum. Leaves alternate, simple, rarely pinnately compound, exstipulate, venation reticulate. Floral characters. Inflorescence, solitary, axillary or cymose, as in Solanum. Flower, bisexual, actinomorphic. Calyx, sepals 5, united, persistent, velvet estivation. Corolla, petals 5, united, velvet estivation. Androecium, stamens 5, epipetalous. Gynoecium, bicarpellary, syncarpous, ovary superior, bilocular, placenta swollen with many ovules. Fruits, berry or capsules. Seeds, many, endospermous. Floral formula plus bisocyan K5 united, C5 united, A5 Z-2 united. Economic importance: many plants belonging to this family are source of food: tomato, brinjal, potato, spice, chili, medicine, belladonna, ashwagandha, fumigatory, tobacco, ornamental, petunia. 5.9.3 Liliaceae, commonly called the lily family, is the characteristics representative of monocotyledonous plants. It is distributed worldwide. Vegetative characters: perennial, perennial herbs with underground bulbs or corms or rhizomes. Leaves, mostly basal, alternate, linear, exstipulate with parallel venation. Floral characters: inflorescence, solitary or cymose, often umbellate. Clusters, flower, bisexual, actinomorphic. Perianth, tepal 6, 3 plus 3, often united into tube. Velvet estivation. Androecium, stamen 6, 3 plus 3, epitepalous. Gynoecium, tricarpellary, syncarpous. Ovary superior, trilocular with many ovules. Exile, placentation. Fruit, capsule, rarely berry. Seed, endospermous. Floral formula: beer plus bisocyan P 3 plus 3, A 3 plus 3, G 300. Economic importance: many plants belonging to this family are good ornamentals. Tulip, gloriosa, source of medicine. Aloe, vegetables, asparagus, and col- colchicine, colchicum autumnal.
Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel for more such videos.